Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how time seems to move faster and faster? How does the pressure to consume grow heavier each day? In a world constantly telling us to buy more, own more, and be more, there's another path we can choose. It's called the slow life. The truth is, this simple idea holds a profound power, especially for those of us who've witnessed decades of change and now, more than ever, yearn for something quieter, more meaningful. As we age, we begin to reevaluate consumerism and realize that material things often carry less weight. Make no mistake, the life we've been told to pursue, full of endless consumption, isn't the only way. There's another way, and it's worth exploring. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. We live in a world where everything, it seems, is tied to money, to profit. We're constantly bombarded with advertisements, urged to buy, consume, and accumulate more. For those of us who remember a time when life moved at a slower, gentler pace, this relentless push toward more can feel utterly overwhelming. The noise, the distractions, the clutter, it all builds up, weighing us down and stealing our peace of mind. But here's the truth I've come to realize. We don't have to keep chasing this endless race. We don't have to buy into the hustle anymore. As we grow older, there's a quiet power in choosing to step off that treadmill, to refuse to be swept up in the frenzied pace that modern life demands. We've reached a place where it's not only acceptable to slow down, it's necessary. It's the time in our lives to breathe deeply, reflect, and live in a way that feels intentional, not just reactionary. Let me take you on a personal journey of clearing out the clutter. A few years ago, I made a decision that fundamentally shifted my life. I downsized. I sold my spacious home, the one where I had spent so many years, and moved into a much smaller space, a narrowboat. Now, if you've ever heard of narrowboats, you know they're not exactly roomy. This boat was a mere 50 feet long and just under 7 feet wide. Not much space for all the things I had accumulated over the years. It was a small home for a big life, and that life had been filled with things. Boxes upon boxes of possessions I hadn't even looked at in years. In my kitchen alone, I found 5 coffee makers. 5. Why on earth did I need so many? It was both comical and sad to realize how much stuff I had clung to, thinking it was somehow essential to my happiness. But as I started to let go, something profound happened. It wasn't just the material things that I was shedding, it was emotional weight too. Each item I released felt like a step toward liberation. I could almost feel the burden lifting from my shoulders. At first it was hard. I struggled with the idea of parting with things, especially things that had once held meaning. But as I simplified my possessions, I simplified my life. I started to feel lighter, physically, mentally, emotionally. Moving into that small, modest space was like being reborn. I didn't just gain freedom from physical clutter. I experienced a spiritual freedom I hadn't known in years. I felt more connected to myself, to my surroundings, and the people in my life. It was as if I had finally freed up space in my heart and mind for things that truly mattered. If you've never tried it, I encourage you to give it a shot. Go through your closets, your garage, your kitchen. Get rid of the things that no longer serve you. The old appliances, the clothes you'll never wear again, the knickknacks that have gathered dust. It's amazing how much peace can come from clearing out what no longer holds purpose in your life. The less you have, the more you can appreciate the beauty of what you truly need. The simple things, the quiet moments, the things that make life feel like life rather than just a collection of possessions. But there's a larger truth at play here, one that we've all come to recognize over time. Capitalism, for all its merits, can easily lead us into a trap. I'm not against capitalism. It's a system that, when balanced, allows us to create, innovate, and trade. It brings us goods and services that improve our lives. I'm happy to pay for a loaf of bread that someone has worked hard to bake. I understand the value of a fair exchange. But here's the catch. The system can push us into a cycle of endless consumption. When we start acquiring things simply for the sake of acquiring them, we lose sight of what truly brings happiness. Suddenly we're obsessed with the newest gadget, the latest trend, and the fleeting thrill of buying something new. And in the process, we become disconnected from what matters: relationships, experiences, the quiet beauty of simply being alive. As we get older, we begin to realize that the things we once thought we couldn't live without aren't as essential as we believed. The endless pursuit of the latest fashion or the most expensive gadget begins to feel hollow. What matters? The moments spent with loved ones, the quiet cup of coffee in the morning, the simple act of enjoying nature. Those are the things that become precious, and they don't come with a price tag. Choosing to live simply in a complex world means going against the current. It means opting out of the constant rat race of consumerism. I know what it feels like to stand apart, to be different. In a society where everyone is chasing something, whether it's the next paycheck, the next purchase, the next thing to mark off their to-do list, it's easy to feel like you're the odd one out when you decide to slow down, to live with less, and to prioritize peace over possession. But in that stillness, in that space away from the noise, something beautiful happens. You start to notice the world around you in ways you never did before. The way the light hits the leaves on a tree in the morning, the smell of fresh rain, the quiet comfort of sitting with a loved one, no words necessary. Those little moments that once felt insignificant suddenly become the most meaningful parts of life. Living simply is not about deprivation. It's about making intentional choices, choosing what truly nourishes you, both physically and spiritually. It's about giving up what doesn't matter in favor of what truly brings joy. And when you do that, you'll find that life becomes richer, more fulfilling, and far more peaceful than you ever imagined. Yes, at first it might feel uncomfortable. Friends and family might not understand why you've chosen to step away from the chaos, but trust me when I say this. The peace that comes with slowing down, the joy that comes from consuming less, will far outweigh any momentary discomfort you feel from standing apart. The simple life, the life that chooses quality over quantity, stillness over noise, is a life that brings profound satisfaction and happiness. And here's the truly beautiful part. As we age, we start to see the world through new eyes. We find joy not in the extravagant, but in the small, everyday moments. A hot cup of tea in the morning, a walk in the park, a conversation with a friend. These simple joys, so often overlooked in the rush of youth, become the treasures of life. They are in their way priceless. When you let go of the need for constant consumption, you make room for the kind of happiness that truly sustains you. Maybe you'll start gardening or reading that book you've been meaning to get to. Perhaps you'll rediscover a hobby you've long since forgotten. The point is, by simplifying your life, you create space for joy, deep, lasting joy, that is far more fulfilling than any material possession could ever provide. Resisting the pull of consumerism in today's world is no small feat. The allure of shopping, of acquiring new things, is so deeply ingrained in our society that it feels almost impossible to escape. Even when we've decided to embrace a slower, more intentional life, the temptations are still there, lurking around every corner. It's in the advertisements that pop up when we're scrolling through social media, in the sales that seem too good to pass up, and even in the subtle desire to buy something new simply because it promises a fleeting moment of satisfaction. How many times have we opened up an online store like Amazon, not needing anything, but somehow ended up filling our cart with things we didn't even want? It's like an invisible force that pulls us back into the cycle of consumption. The worst part? It's not just our wallets that are affected. It's our minds, our peace, and our connection to the deeper aspects of life. Consumerism convinces us that we need things that we don't, and we end up seeking temporary satisfaction that quickly fades, leaving us emptier than before. But here's the silver lining. As you begin to resist those impulses, as you practice mindfulness and awareness around your spending, something incredible happens. The urges begin to fade, and life becomes a lot more peaceful. The more you say no to unnecessary purchases, the easier it gets. And eventually it feels more like second nature than a challenge. Start small. Take one day when you don't make any unnecessary purchases, then try 2 days, then a week. Over time, you'll realize that the urge to consume gradually lessens, and with it, a quiet contentment grows. You'll start appreciating what you already have and find fulfillment in things that don't require money. It's like breaking free from a chain that once bound you, and soon you'll find that there's so much joy in living simply without constantly chasing the next thing. When you free yourself from the constant drive to consume, you create space Not just in your home, but in your life and heart. What will you fill that space with? The possibilities are endless. Maybe you'll reconnect with a hobby you've put aside, like knitting or painting. Maybe you'll take long walks in the park, feeling the breeze and the stillness. Perhaps you'll find yourself spending more time with loved ones, your children, your grandchildren, sharing stories, passing on wisdom, and building memories that will last far longer than any item you could buy. The beauty of living simply is that it opens up your life to the things that truly matter, the meaningful activities that nourish your soul. You don't need to spend a dime to feel fulfilled. The less you spend, the more room you have for the kind of joy that can't be purchased. Of course, living differently in a world obsessed with consumerism comes with its challenges. The hardest part is often resisting not just the pressure from others, but the pressure we put on ourselves. We've been conditioned to believe that success and happiness are directly tied to what we own, and it's hard to let go of that belief. Society, with its endless ads and glossy promises of the perfect life, constantly pushes the narrative of consumption. It's a cycle designed to benefit those in power, those who profit from our desire for more. Choosing to step away from that system is uncomfortable. It's going against the grain, and it can feel lonely, especially when you see others around you continuing to live in ways that no longer resonate with you. But here's the truth. The discomfort of being different is only temporary. In the end, the rewards of living intentionally, of choosing simplicity over consumption, are far more profound than any material possession ever could be. As time goes on, the pressures from society start to lose their grip on you, and you find peace in knowing that you're living in alignment with your deepest values. The journey isn't easy, but it brings lasting contentment. One of the most beautiful gifts that come with living simply is the financial freedom it brings. When you stop buying things you don't need, you find that your money stretches further and you start saving without even trying. This money, instead of being drained away on fleeting pleasures, can be used for the things that truly matter. Maybe it's taking a trip to see family, investing in your health, or simply building a cushion of savings to ensure peace of mind in your later years. Living simply doesn't just free your heart from the clutter, it also lightens the financial burden that many of us carry as we age. You might even discover that you need far less income to live a fulfilling life than you once thought. Imagine that. Freedom, not just from material clutter, but from financial worry as well. As we grow older, reflection becomes a natural part of the journey. We look back on our lives, considering the choices we've made, the paths we've taken, and the lessons we've learned along the way. And when I reflect on my journey, I realize that the things I didn't buy, the trends I didn't follow, hold no regret for me. What I cherish are the quiet moments spent with family, the joy of being present, and the peace that comes from living a life that aligns with my values. I've made mistakes, yes, but the path I've chosen, one of simplicity, mindfulness, and a deep appreciation for the life I have, has brought me a contentment that no amount of possessions could ever provide. The true wealth in life is not in what we own, but in how we live and love. As we reach the later stages of life, we often find ourselves thinking about the legacy we'll leave behind. What will people remember us for? For me, it's not about leaving behind material wealth or a collection of things. It's about leaving behind the lessons I've learned, the values I've upheld, and the way I've chosen to live. I hope my children and grandchildren will learn from my example, not from the things I accumulated, but from the way I lived my life, slowly, intentionally, and with a deep appreciation for the small, simple joys. I hope they'll understand that true happiness doesn't come from the accumulation of things, but from appreciating what we already have. And when they face the challenges of their own lives, I hope they'll carry that lesson forward, finding their peace and fulfillment in a life well lived. That, to me, is the most beautiful legacy I can leave. Prioritizing health and well-being in the slow life is perhaps one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves as we age. As the years go by, our health inevitably becomes one of the most precious things we have, yet in a world that is obsessed with productivity, achievement, and material success, it's so easy to lose sight of what matters: taking care of ourselves. We often get so caught up in the frantic rush of life, constantly striving to do more, be more, and have more, that we forget to slow down and check in with ourselves. But when we choose to live slowly, we give ourselves the space to focus on our health. both our physical and mental well-being. Living a slow life invites us to pause, to breathe, to listen to our bodies. It's about noticing the subtle signals our bodies give us, signals that we may have ignored for far too long when we were caught up in the hustle and bustle of modern life. When we slow down, we start to recognize when our bodies need rest, when it's time to move, and when we need to nourish ourselves with food that fuels us and experiences that lift our spirits. This awareness, this connection with our bodies, is one of the greatest benefits of living a slower, more intentional life. We stop pushing ourselves to the edge for the sake of meeting external demands or ticking off endless to-do lists. Instead, we embrace the idea that staying active, eating mindfully, and caring for our mental health are not luxuries but essential parts of living a long, fulfilling life. For many, this shift towards slow living also brings about a deeper connection with the natural world. How many of us have forgotten the simple joys of nature, the feel of the sun on our skin, the sound of leaves rustling in the wind, the joy of watching birds fly overhead? Whether it's taking regular walks in a local park, tending to a small garden, or simply sitting outside and breathing in the fresh air, the healing power of nature is undeniable. Studies have shown time and again that spending time in nature can lower stress levels, reduce blood pressure, and improve mental clarity. In the slower pace of life, nature becomes our ally in maintaining good health. Health in the context of slow living isn't something that's squeezed in between work meetings or family obligations. It becomes a priority, a conscious choice we make each day. We don't wait for a crisis to force us to pay attention to our bodies. Instead, we give ourselves the gift of self-care daily. By slowing down and making time for rest, mindfulness, and meaningful activities, we create a foundation of well-being that can carry us through the years with vitality and peace. There is so much beauty in this shift. With less pressure to keep up with the fast-paced demands of modern life, we can focus on the most important thing of all, our well-being. This isn't about depriving ourselves, but about embracing the freedom to live with intention, to make choices that nurture us, and to enjoy a life that's truly in alignment with our values. By prioritizing our health and well-being in this way, we can experience a higher quality of life. The effects of this shift may not be immediately obvious, but over time, we'll begin to notice how much more connected we feel to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. The peace, the clarity, and the deep sense of satisfaction that come from living slowly are priceless. These simple acts of self-care, whether it's taking a walk, cooking a nourishing meal, or simply resting, become the foundation for a life that's rich in meaning, joy, and fulfillment. As we continue down this path, we create a future that's filled with health, vitality, and the kind of peace that only comes when we've truly learned to slow down. As we wrap up today's video, I hope you've gained some valuable insights on living a slower, more intentional life, one that prioritizes health, well-being, and true fulfillment over the distractions of modern consumerism. So what have you learned from this journey? What is one thing that stood out to you, and what will you start practicing in your own life moving forward? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Share with us one lesson you plan to take to heart and incorporate into your daily routine. Let's continue this conversation and inspire each other to live a simpler, healthier life. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for being part of this journey toward a more peaceful, fulfilling life.